Hey guys, welcome again for another Outlaws of Thunder Junction standard deck tech, and I found one of the recently submitted user submitted list for the standard archetype with the new set, and this is from MTG Goldfish website. We count this build that's made by IC Ruin, username IC underscore Ruin, and they call this one as the Selesnya Smash, or basically I think we would call this as the green white or Selesnya aggro deck. Now with this preview, as you can see, I think the only new cards that was added was Seraphic Steed and Colossal Rattleworm, but we're going to check on later what is the main setup of this deck build. Again, if you are yet familiar with this archetype with aggro decks, usually they would like to curve out early on with a few 1-drops, then follow up by a strong 2-drop, and then somewhat snowball from that kind of curve. So with this deck, as implied here, we have six, I think this is 6 1-drops. You can check here, we have 3 Evolving Adaptive and then 3 Novice Inspector. Each of these has somewhat kind of a purpose in why it was added in this build for the 1-drop category. So Evolving Adaptive is a creature that can get a +1 counter when another creature enters the battlefield under control if it has the greater power or toughness than that of the adaptive. So those counters come for each of the oil counters added for this Phyrexian Warrior creature. Now for that kind of build, you can see here that we have to cast 2-3, which has a greater toughness than that of adaptive, starting off as a 1-1. Later on, you can still go with enough of the 4-4, 4-5, and with somewhat kind of add this all counters, and in turn gets the Evolving Adaptive evolve in somewhat a 2-2, a 3-3, and so on and so forth. Now for the other 1-drop in the deck is a Novice Inspector. So in a way, it can also somewhat trigger the first level of adaptive because of the 2 toughness. But the other purpose of this creature will probably go with the late game, wherein you can just sacrifice this clue token to get you a card or draw you a card. And in turn would also help you get to your best creature or best cards possible in certain situations. Now for the 2-drops, we can start by discussing maybe the Seraphic Steed. So this 2 task for 2 with has a good ability already, first strike to lifelink, but when it is saddled as it attacks, you will also create a 3-3 White Angel creature token with flying. So as early as turn 3 maybe, when it attacks, you can have this power of a bonus of a flyer, of a 3-3 Angel Flyer. At the same time, you get to also have your 3rd drop in this turn by 3rd turn, for example. But why it's saddle 4 and how we can basically satisfy this kind of setup with the power, because we have a lot of curve early on, as well as most of your 3-drops are basically 4 power. We have Reborn and Blooded Contaminator, as well as Trostani 3 Whispers, to make sure that you can saddle it basically, and of course get the bonus 3-3 creature. And while with Evolving Adaptive in play, you can basically also trigger the adaptive to grow by having this creature enter the battlefield. At that, most of the time it would have the 3-3 probably bigger than that of the number of counters added to the adaptive. Now for the other 2-drop in the deck, which somewhat goes with the similar of the Evolving Adaptive, is the Sharp-Eyed Rookie, and we have 4 copies of that in the deck. So this is a 2-2 for 2 with Vigilance, but when it enters a battlefield, a creature with power or toughness greater than that of the Sharp-Eyed Rookies, it will get a +1 counter added on the rookie, and it will also investigate, which means that you can create a clue token as well as get the rookie bigger with these +1 counters. So the same setup with this deck, you can basically go off with a lot of pump effects, thereby making effective attacks on the curve, and especially the first 3 turns would be very powerful for this kind of deck build. And of course the bonus Kellan, which is also sort of a utility card, because whenever it attacks, You will reveal the top card of library, and then if it's a creature card with mana value 2 or less, put it in your hand. So it's also some kind of a card draw effect. Otherwise, you can put it in your graveyard. So in a way, it can also goes with filtering out most of your creatures. As you can see, only 4 or 6 creatures are with mana cost 4 or greater. So in any case, whenever the Kellan Daring Traveler's trigger happen, it will likely get you to bonus to draw you a card for a creature as of course an added gas to your hand and get you succeeding threats on the board. And for the last 2-drop in this build, also of course the Taxing of Talia, Guardian Traben, which punishes non-creature spells by having them 1 more mana to cast. And for the 3rd drop, again, we have a variance of 3 to cast 4/4 creatures. First off is Bloated Contaminator, which can also get you to proliferate whenever it deals combat damage to a player, and also gets you a Toxic 1 if in route that you can be able to win by a Toxic or Poison counter damage. And do take note that Proliferate could also happen here, wherein you also get your Evolving Adapted additional oil counters, and of course your Sharp Eyed Rookie also additional counters. In that, with the 4 copies of the Contaminator in the deck, we also have 3 copies of the Pulocranos Reborn. So this is also go with a 3 to cast 4/5, but the bonus of Reach, which means that you can also block creatures with flying. At the same time, can also evolve or transform by paying 6 and white or 6 and 2 life. It will turn into a Pulocranos Engine of Brewing, which is somewhat similar to that of a Worm Coil Engine effect, by having a 6/6 Rich lifelink, and when it dies, it will create 3/3 green and white Protection Hydra creature token with Reach, and a 3/3 green white Protection Hydra creature with lifelink. So that of your 3-drop, our last card for this category is Sanity Whispers, which is more of also a good power toughness by turn 3, but also get you some utility effects by having this line of abilities. Get a Death Touch, get Vigilance, or gains double strike until end of turn. Now for the 4-drops, we have 4 copies of Axebane Ferox, which can also get you to attack at the same time with a Death Touch and Haste, and also a way to protect itself with the ward Collect Evidence 4. And 2 copies of Colossal Rattle Maw, which can also be flashed as long as you control a desert. And also a Guild 6/5 Trampler would also get you a good chunk of damage output to your opponent. And of course, you can have also this ability that you can exile it from the graveyard, search the library for a desert card, and put it into the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Now we can check if we have deserts in the deck. Unfortunately, he has not included at least one, but I think it would not be the purpose of that card for you to have this one as a flashy effect. But of course, that is also again another added bonus if you get a flashy 6/5 to block certain creatures from your opponent. And for the non-creatures, we have 2 copies of enchantments and 3 copies of instants. Hermit's Tribute for the World 3 for the enchantment would also get you to draw a card if its power is 3 or greater, and then putting 2% counters on a creature. So in a way, it gets also a good bonus to pump up your opponent's, your creature board with this a lot of counters added. And for of course, we need to consider also a main deck spot removal in the form of Get Lost, that is 3 copies in the deck. Can deal with a creature, an enchantment, or a planeswalker at the cost of having your opponent creating 2 map tokens. And for the land, we are pretty much basic with the build, but I think it would this would be further improved by adding those restless man lands, and maybe some mana fix for the ally colors of green white in the check lands from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So we only have here Brushlands playset and Razor Verge Ticket as our mana fix for green white, 12 Forest, and the common Blossoming Sands, which we can also upgrade later on. But overall, I think this deck would be a good way to suggest for a green white aggro theme with of course the mana value is very cheap. For instance, we have 2.43 on the average. The lands is 24, but I think having also 23 or 22 lands would also suffice in this build. Color distribution would go with mostly green with 45 and white is 16, but for producers are also aligned with the number with more of producing full green with 24. And we have these tokens, as mentioned. These are to represent the other card effects of this deck build. So we have Angel token, Blue token, the Map token, of course, and the Correction Hydra tokens as produced by the flip version of Pulokranos. And that's pretty much it for this deck. I do hope we can have a gameplay of this in your local standard events up until the Outlaws of Thunder Junction is released for standard format gameplay. And maybe on MTG Arena we can also see some similar deck builds, and any discussions are welcome, as we can have a playtest of this deck. At least are still very subject for improvement, and new card components are also welcome to add. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching this another video for standard with Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Do not forget to notifications bell and subscribe also, for we can be the first one to be notified for future video uploads. Again, guys, thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.